Let me know. Thanks. Okay, bye. Okay, hey everybody, this is Patty with the Breastfeeding Shop. Lora, can you still hear me?
Yep, I can still hear you.
Hey everybody, this is Patty with the Breastfeeding Shop. How are you? Lora, can you still hear me?
I can still hear you. I just can't see the chat box anymore, so you're going to have to help with that.
Okay, so I can, anyway, all right, great. So thank you for joining us. And again, Patty with the Breastfeeding Shop, and it's been a while since I've done an Ask a Lactation Consultant, but we're going to start doing them more regularly again. And it's super exciting news. You might notice somebody else fabulous on the screen with me. Her name is Lora Steffie. She's the director of Telehealth for the Breastfeeding Shop. And she is an international board certified lactation consultant. And she's also a nurse practitioner and a bunch of other things that I don't really know what they are, but I'll let her introduce herself. But I wanted to kind of dive in pretty quickly. I know that you guys have a lot of questions. I see some things already that are popping up on the screen. So ask away, but Laura's heading up the telehealth for the Breastfeeding Shop. And it's a new addition to the product offering for the Breastfeeding Shop. And for those of you that don't know, telehealth, it's not only super convenient, but insurance companies do pay for lactation visits from the comfort of your own home, and the Breastfeeding Shop can help you with those. So I'm going to let Lora introduce herself, and then I'm going to start reading some questions. And we have a list of things that are important topics, but I have a feeling we're going to get pretty busy pretty quickly. So Lora, take it away. Thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me. So hi, everybody. Again, like Patty said, my name is Lora. I am a board certified lactation consultant for the last 6 years now. And I'm also a nurse practitioner. I have a dual certification in both women's health and family health. So treating both mom and babies is a specialty of mine. So that's where we are with everything. I joined Patty just this past month. And I lost connection.
Oh, we can still hear you. Yeah, Lora.
Can you still hear me?
Yes.
I'm not sure if you can still hear me or see me, but I lost your connection. So we're having thunderstorms here, guys, so bear with us a minute. I've been a nurse for 20 years. I mostly worked in maternal child health, which lends itself obviously to being a lactation consultant. And then after I became a lactation consultant, I became the nurse practitioner. So I wanted to be able to care for my patients a little bit more than just what the nurse could do at the bedside. So I found this career, and I think it's been an awesome opportunity. Helping moms is a real true passion that I have. I think from my own personal experience, I didn't have the greatest outcomes with my firstborn when he was breastfeeding. He'll now be 16, so that was quite some time ago. But since then, I've learned a lot, and I've learned how to help other people to overcome their challenges.
Yeah, it's funny because Lora, you've always supported the Breastfeeding Shop when I first started, and I always appreciated. But when I first met you, I was like, she looks so familiar. I'm like, and then I figured it out that when I had my babies, my older son in the hospital, I was panicking. I'm like, I don't know. I can't get the baby to latch. I don't know what I'm doing. And you're the one that you're like, clip, flip. There you go. I'm like, now I can nurse. Now the baby can nurse. But for everybody out there, just so you know that Lora, she ran the best breastfeeding center in the Lehigh Valley where I live, and I couldn't have asked for a more qualified. If I could handpick the perfect person to help in this journey with the Breastfeeding Shop and the telehealth lactation, it would be you. So I don't know if I've ever.
Well, thanks.
Yeah. So yeah, we're going to start doing these Ask a Lactation Consultant lives, and we're going to experiment with the times as well, just to make sure that it works for you guys. But I'm going to jump right in. We've got some questions already. So I think, again, so we'll just jump right in. But we've got a question from Erica. I can't attend, but love the following questions asked. So we'll maybe circle back around, but answer those questions because you can circle back around and watch the videos. But she said, due to a history of mental illness, my goal is to get 3 to 4 hour stretch of sleep at some point during the night. I would like to have another caretaker give a bottle of expressed milk or formula to accomplish this. Will this ruin my milk supply if I don't pump for 3 to 4 hours? That's a great question.
Typically, yeah, that is a good question. And typically one session of going 3 to 4 hours is not going to ruin your milk supply. Ideally, you either want to pump or feed right before you go to have that time frame of sleep, and then offer the baby a bottle, whatever caregiver is going to be doing it. Just make sure you're looking up paced bottle feeding, PACED, paced bottle feeding. And the baby will take about 1 ounce to 1.5 ounces for every hour you're away. So that's how you can plan accordingly about how much milk you're going to need, whether you're expressing milk or using formula, whatever your option may be.
Yeah, that's a great question. I don't want to forget to say this, but we're going to send everybody out an email, because I know a lot of the mom, after the video, I know that a lot of the moms have ordered their breast pumps from the breastfeeding shop already. So if you don't want to fill out that lengthy form with all of your insurance information, then you can just go ahead and email hello@thebreastfeedingshop.com, and that will be in your email. And then we can get you started to address your individual concerns if you want to go more in depth. So, okay, I got a question from Casey. I'm curious about common new mom breastfeeding pitfalls and how it will typically takes to become comfortable with nursing, getting past the initial pain and discomfort. Good question.
I think truly the biggest new mom pitfall is not being prepared. I think television, movies, they kind of all give us this impression that breastfeeding is going to be this easy, natural thing that we don't have to put a lot of time and effort and thought into prenatally. And I think one of the best things you can do is get prenatal education. So make sure you're taking a prenatal class, learn the different holds, practice the different holds, get yourself a teddy bear or a doll and actually try what those holds feel like, because honestly, it's nothing we've ever done before. So you need to practice a little bit and kind of get used to how you're holding that baby. And the biggest other big pitfall is feeding through pain. If something hurts, it's not meant to be extraordinarily painful. Initial latch-on pain, which lasts up to the first minute, sure, that's acceptable. But pain that lasts past the minute, you want to hit that call bell in the hospital and get the nurse to come in and make sure that she's helping you to get a deeper latch. Initial latch-on pain shouldn't last more than the first minute or so, and then the pain should dissipate and go away. And breastfeeding should be a fairly pleasant experience. When it becomes this experience of, oh my goodness, this hurts so bad, something's not right. Either baby anatomy is a problem, or you're just not getting a good deep latch. A lot of new moms will lean front, so baby ends up sucking on the tip of the nipple. So if you can lean back and get more breast tissue in the mouth, it's going to make a huge difference for the outcome.
Yeah, and we've got a couple more questions, which is great. But I think what I'm excited about is all of the initiative to help women and women's healthcare. And I think that, to the fact that they pay for the breast pumps, but they also pay for lactation visits. Insurance companies know that if the mom is, and they pay for them prenatally too, to help with these type of things, to prepare you, answer any questions and prepare you for what it's going to be like once the baby actually comes, so you can have a more successful outcome after the fact. So it's great news that insurance companies are actually on board with all of this.
Yeah. So if the pain continues on, you definitely want to make sure that you're scheduling an appointment with either us or your local IBCLC, and make sure that you're having somebody evaluate the latch, having somebody evaluate the anatomy, because that can be imperative. I mean, that can solve all of the problems for new moms early on. Position and latch solve about 90% of breastfeeding problems if you can make sure that you're getting the right position and the right latch for your baby.
That's great information to know beforehand, because you would, oh, okay, this shouldn't be, let me just switch things up. But okay, so let's see. I'm curious about common new mom breastfeeding. Oh wait, see, I already asked that. My daughter is 6 months. She exclusively nurses and refuses a bottle, pacifier, and sippy cup. How do I transition to a sippy cup and food?
So at 6 months, make sure that your pediatrician's evaluating her and making sure that she's able to sit up on her own and that she's ready for solid foods. Transitioning her to solid foods is one thing. Some people will do the purees. Some people will do a form of baby-led weaning. You can look at that. There's great books on the topic. So that's transitioning to solid foods. As far as getting the baby to either take a bottle or a sippy cup, that can be another adventure. A lot of babies who have trouble at the breast will take a straw sippy cup if you haven't already tried one of them, or try an old-time sippy cup without the valve in it, almost like the ones you get at the dollar store that don't have a valve in it. Or take a bottle nipple and just play around in the baby's mouth. A lot of people are trying to force the baby to take a bottle, and baby's just not really sure what the silicone thing is that you're shoving in the mouth. So just play around, make it fun. Stick it on your finger and just play around. It can be like a little toy for baby to experiment with. And then over time, you work to actually putting that nipple on the end of a bottle. and then slowly put a little bit of formula in, not tons of formula in, or breast milk, whichever you're using, and see how the baby does with it. And realistically, we often tell people, have somebody else give the bottle. Yeah, that's great, except the baby trusts mom the most. So I'm a big proponent of mom should be the one trying to introduce the nipple, trying to play with the nipple, trying to introduce the bottle of formula or the bottle of breast milk, whatever it is that you're planning to use.
How do you know when is a good time to start introducing food?
So most babies are typically ready to have solid foods by the time they're 6 months of age. We tell you exclusive breastfeeding for the first 6 months of age, and then breastfeeding for up to a year with inclusion of additional solid foods. We typically start introducing those solid foods around 6 months of age. And that's once the little gag reflex is gone, once baby's sitting up on his or her own, and they actually have the neck support to be able to hold themselves up and eat. If baby still isn't doing all of those things, 6 months may be a little bit early. Remember too, there's a lot of babies born prematurely trying to adjust for that age. Because if your baby was a month premature, your baby may not be ready until 7 months of age. But this is something you should be talking to your pediatrician about at the 6-month well visit, or somewhere thereabouts, to make sure that your baby appears to be ready for those solid foods.
What are some good foods to start with typically?
Oh my goodness, what are some good foods to start with? I'm truly, my first baby had all of the purees. So we did the stage 1 purees. We started with vegetables, we worked through fruits. By the time I got to my 3rd child, we actually did the baby-led weaning. So I read those books, and baby was pretty much eating from the get-go what mom and dad were eating. So we very rarely did actual baby food out of the store. So it's a personal preference. It's all about choice, but think about it. Our ancestors did not have pureed baby food. And they fed their babies just fine, and we all turned out okay, or we wouldn't be here. So it's definitely something to think about, and definitely something to look at.
Nothing to do with breastfeeding, but just always interesting. And this is a fun, silly question. When do humans move past the chicken nugget stage? Just kidding.
Good luck. I don't know. My 9-year-old's still in that chicken nugget stage, so I wish you well.
Oh gosh, my 14-year-old's still in it too. So she also, Maria also is asking, I don't sleep consistently through the night, but because she nurses, she uses me as a comfort pacifier and nourishment. How do I just get her past the cluster feeding and on food and a sippy cup? Yeah, I remember at night, like my kids were, both of them, they would cluster feed at night. And I think I know the reason why, but that gets exhausting a little bit. And then when they just want it for comfort. So what do you suggest for that?
So realistically, your highest milk supply is in the wee hours of the morning. That's when we all want to be sleeping. Baby, on the other hand, he or she wants to be eating because that's some of your highest milk supply for the day. So definitely something to think about as far as that's concerned. And not every baby's ready to sleep through the night, even by 6 months. They may still need a feeding in the middle of the night. And I think it's pretty normal and nothing to really worry about. Try and put that baby in the bed with you. Try and close your eyes while baby's feeding, and then put him or her back in their own sleep location. But it's not an abnormal thing to feed in the middle of the night, and there's no big concern with what's going on here.
Except exhaustion.
Yeah. Except you're a new mom, and I promise that gets better. And then you have other things to worry about in the middle of the night, and you're not necessarily feeding a baby, but you're still worried about them in other ways. So, and I think Patty and I can both attest to that.
Yeah. It seems to go in. I always thought when my babies were babies that like every 3 months there'd be a new milestone or something different that would happen. Feeding would change, and it was like consistently every like 2 to 3 months. I mean, it got more spaced apart, but that was just my experience. I don't know if there was any science behind that.
And remember, we are the ultimate pacifier. We are the original pacifier. Our breasts were the original pacifier. Our breasts have the ability to calm that baby down when they're upset or when they're scared because it's a big dark room in the middle of the night. The pacifier isn't near as loving as the mom attached to the breast. And that pacifier was made to mimic our breasts. So it's always important to keep that in mind, that we are the thing that calms our children down.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a big responsibility, but it's wonderful. Okay. That's Stephanie. My biggest struggle has been figuring out holds and keeping the baby on breast due to large breasts. I always have the sandwich hold. I couldn't figure out how to use the pillows. Any tips for preventing possible future back, neck, and shoulder issues?
You can try laid back breastfeeding. Another thing you can do to help support your breast is take a hand towel and roll it from one end to the other and make a little roll and put that under your breast to help support the weight of the breast to be able to get that nipple in a better position so that you can football hold and do the other holds where you can lean back a little further and make your neck and back a little bit more comfortable.
I remember when I would become engorged, the latch was harder. It was more difficult.
Oh, absolutely. So when you become engorged, a lot of swelling is happening. Yes, your milk comes in at that time, but you're also having a lot of swelling of the breast. So we need to get that excess fluid back into our lymph nodes so that our body can pee off that excess fluid. And we need to be able to soften the breast a little bit in order for baby to feed. So if you, I'm going to grab my handy dandy breast here. If you massage up into the armpit, you'll actually get some of the excess fluid off for those people that are engorged. And if your nipple is kind of flat and kind of stuck in because of all of the swelling, you can take 3 fingers on either side, push straight back and hold it for 30 seconds. And then move it around and do the same thing, hold it for 30 seconds. So what you're doing is pushing some of that excess fluid back away from the nipple so that baby's able to latch on a little bit easier. And that gives a little bit more of an averted nipple for baby to grab onto.
Oh, that's interesting. Because it always was like, I can't latch on, you know, I could feel the frustration.
Yeah. And I think that's one of the big, back to their question earlier, that's also one of the big struggles of new moms is they don't know what to do when they wake up and their breasts are 2 to 3 cup sizes bigger overnight. And they're just not sure what to do with this because oftentimes, like you said, baby doesn't want to latch because they don't know how to grab on at that point.
Right. It's the human body is so fascinating.
It really is.
Any advice for post lip tie revisions? She had a poor latch before, and I wanted to create a better habits going forward.
So some providers, when they do revisions, will give you exercises to do afterwards. I don't think they're a bad idea as long as you're not causing excruciating pain for the baby.
What does that mean? Post lip tie revisions. I don't know what that means.
So they've actually released the lip and the tongue tie here, I believe is what's happened. So whether that was with a scissors or a laser, there's different methods of release depending on the provider. Some providers will give exercises to do afterward to try and retrain the tongue. One of the biggest things would be consulting with a lactation consultant to make sure you're getting the best latch possible and trying to get rid of some of those bad habits that may have formed when the baby's tongue didn't move as effectively. So that would be a good option. And then also some people will recommend craniosacral therapy. I don't know that we have a lot of research yet on craniosacral therapy, but it's definitely something that some chiropractors in the areas work with babies, and they're able to do some just gentle manipulation, which kind of helps the baby get back into alignment. Because we know a lot of times when these ties exist, there can be some malalignment. So again, I'm more of an evidence-based practitioner, and I prefer to really find all of the evidence. There's not a whole lot of evidence yet to back it, except for anecdotal evidence where we've seen it's worked with some patients.
Interesting. Yeah, that's a great question. Really good question. We always, when I was doing these a lot last year, we'd always get a lot of the same questions, but there would always be unique situations, which tells me every person is unique and their individual situation should be addressed uniquely. So
right. Oh yeah. I mean, everybody's breastfeeding journey is different, and there's no right or wrong answer to a breastfeeding journey. I mean, we can tell you all we want about exclusive breastfeeding for 6 months. That doesn't work for everyone. It's all about what works for mom and baby. And I'm a big proponent of that. I want to support you on your breastfeeding journey and your breastfeeding journey alone, not what your neighbors looks like, not what your best friends looks like, but what your journey is meant to be, because everybody's is a little bit different. And all 3 of my kids were by far extraordinarily different. My first one was tongue-tied and I had no idea. I do now, but he's 16 and he's not going to let me do anything about it. But back then it was really difficult to feed him. And he was by far my worst breastfeeder. I can see him peeking around the corner, looking at me, smiling. So he was by far my worst breastfeeder. And he knows that. I mean, but over time I learned more. And just as all of us do, experience just makes the mom kind of thing.
Yeah, they do feed differently. They nurse differently, for sure. My one son, it was just a leisurely, most wonderful thing, and it would go on forever, right? And that's kind of how he enjoys his food too. It's very interesting, right? To this day.
Yep.
And my one, it was like quick and to the point.
It's funny, but my second was very much, I love breastfeeding, but he didn't want to take a bottle. He wanted to just breastfeed. He didn't want a bottle. And to this day, he's still my pickiest kid. And I often think like, it's no different now than it was then. I want what I want and nothing else.
My younger one is like, I'm done with this. And then he pretty much was finished and he was ready to take anything. It's just so weird. But so I want to talk about something really important because I know that this might perk everyone's ears up, but the flange sizing, right? Because we always do get this question. So I'm going to proactively bring it up because it is a really important one. And I have my feedback about the breast pumps and such, and also kind of how to size yourself the right way for a flange. I know with regards to the breast pumps, and if you could explain what the measurement is and how to actually do the measurement and how to know if it's a good fit or a bad fit. But with the breast pumps, we have some moms that it's their first time using a breast pump, and they want to order a different size flange, right? Because they're taking the measurements before they've even used a pump. And I always caution everybody to not do that because it changes a lot.
Changes a lot. Your breasts look a lot different after you have that milk come in than they do right now when you're still pregnant. So yes, I would wait until that baby's here. And then you can use the caliper measure. There's tons of measuring tools online where you can actually cut out the circles and see what fits over. But I would caution you, don't just do that without having pumped. Pump a little bit, let your nipple pull out, or feed the baby a little bit, let the nipple pull out, and then do the measurement. Because that's often where you're going to get the most accurate measurement. And I caution you too, that what you measure at a week or two postpartum may not be what you measure at 3 or 4 months. Your nipple may change in size and shape just from feeding that baby. So sometimes the breast pump flange that works the best now, right after baby's born, may not be the same one that works the best a few months down the road. What I tell people is it's always a good idea to have somebody, a professional, take a look at you when you're pumping, because that gives us a good idea of, is there anything rubbing? And sometimes it's hard to see for yourself, depending on how large chested you are. You can't necessarily see your nipple very well in the middle of that flange. So it's very helpful to kind of get an evaluation and make sure, hey, yeah, that looks great. Or maybe you could go up another size or two. And also just listen to your body. I mean, if something's rubbing in there, you know that one doesn't work. And be cautious, because a lot of the pumps that are coming out, we have to be careful that there are actual flange sizes that may fit if you end up having a larger nipple. I mean, if you go into this knowing your nipples definitely look different than all of your sorority sisters' nipples, maybe the standard flange size isn't going to fit you. And if you have a pump that only has 1 or 2 flange sizes, that may not be the best pump for you.
Right. Yeah. I always say that, these wearable pumps are really cool. They're really fun and they serve their purpose. And we do a lot of them, but I always feel like they're very limited just because of the way they're made. They're very limited with the options for flange sizes. They only usually have 2, I think it's a 24 and maybe 27, somewhere around the range. But that'll
fit the majority of women, but there's definitely those outliers that's not going to fit, not going to work for.
Luckily, a lot of the manufacturers for the pumps now, they like Spectra, they package 2 different sizes in the box, which I think is so nice.
That's come so far from the original pumps. So I think that's so great that they're doing that now.
Medela Medela's always had a tremendous amount of different size flange options available, which is, I could talk about breast pumps all day, but
then for some people, like there's flanges on the market that aren't necessarily even made for their pump that'll work better for them depending on how their breast is shaped and things like that. And we can kind of give some guidance too through the breastfeeding shop as far as that might be concerned, like things like pumping pals and things like that could be a good option for some women depending on their comfort level with the pumps flanges they have. So don't automatically just throw the pump away and say, this isn't working, it hurts too much. Seek help. There is definitely help out there.
Yeah. Now, would you say that there's do most moms fall into what are the most moms fall into, what do you say, 24, 20?
I would say probably on average the 24s. Yeah, the majority of moms are probably a 24. Occasionally we have a 27, and occasionally we have a much smaller one or a much larger one. So all depends on the person, but I would say the majority is probably the 24. And that's why the pump companies know that. That's why they include that with most of their pumps. But again, there's definitely people that fall outside that normal range.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, let's talk a little bit about the telehealth visits and how that works. So, right now, as I keep repeating, the insurance will cover telehealth, which is fantastic. And I don't know about you, but I definitely had questions after I had my children, and to be able to log on to a computer the day after the baby's been born would have been so much easier. than having to get a newborn in the car and take them someplace. That was just way overwhelming. So I love being able to do things from the comfort of my own couch. But so the telehealth, so we know insurance covers it, but what are some of the things that you go through in a prenatal class?
So we've been doing a lot of prenatal education thus far. So we spend about an hour just going through what to expect in that first hour or two of life, when to latch the baby on, how to latch the baby on, what's the best position to hold. We talk about some of the normal pitfalls of new moms. We talk about what sore nipples, how do they happen? What can you do for them? We talk about the initial latch on pain. We talk about engorgement. So we're covering a good majority of things. And I think most of the moms that we've seen already would definitely say, hands down, it's been a good response from them, that they really have enjoyed it and really have learned a lot. And then it also gives you access to ask questions via our own patient portal. So it actually comes into our email box, which is HIPAA compliant, and gives us whatever message you're sending to us and allows us to answer more questions. Now, obviously, if it's something simple, we'll gladly answer it in a text message. Something more complicated, we might recommend another appointment. But I think it's an absolutely great tool to be able to do it all from the comfort of your own home and never even have to leave your phone. So
yeah. How long does the first one usually last?
So typically most of our appointments are about an hour in length. We've gone a little bit over depending on the person and amount of questions they have. But typically you can expect about an hour. It's a lot of talking, a lot of note taking. If you're a note taker, I like to take notes. So a lot of my patients have been taking notes. So I think that's a great tool because then you have things to look back on. You know, when you're a little bit sleep deprived, you don't always remember the class you took
a little
4 or 6 weeks ago. Yeah. Much less what happened last night. So
husband has 4 kids. They're all, the oldest one is now in first grade, but I think she's just been sleep deprived for 7 years now. So, when I know that these resources are also available at the hospitals or maybe the doctor's offices, but a lot of insurances will pay for things, you know, outside of those visits as well. But when do you think is the optimal time for somebody to, you know, schedule and start kind of the ball rolling with learning how to breastfeed?
So I'd say like 4 to 6 weeks from before your due date, because majority of us are going to carry to term. There are some people that term is 37 weeks. So that's 3 weeks earlier than what you expected. So if you do 4 to 6 weeks, that gives you a little bit of extra time to do some research, look things up. I encourage you to take a breastfeeding class. Do a prenatal consult if you want to do a prenatal consult with us, because it's a little bit different taking a class and watching videos versus talking about your concerns. One of the things we do during a prenatal appointment is physically look at your nipples too, to see, hey, are they average size? Are they smaller than average? Are they larger than average? Kind of give you an idea where you might be flange size, and talk a little bit about what to expect in those early days pumping. When do you start pumping? When do you introduce a bottle, if that's something you're planning to do?
It's you know, I remember years ago that, you know, talking about breast pumps and breastfeeding were so kind of, I don't want to say taboo, but it was like, oh no, don't use a breast pump. But nowadays it's just so widely accepted, and knowing how beneficial and we work, we do things, we want to be a mom, we want to do other things than just, you know, being a mom is wonderful. But I just love the fact that it's not so taboo to talk to some
And I mean, we're in the United States. People are going back to work before those 12 weeks. Would we love for everyone to have 12 weeks at minimum? That would be great. But a lot of people are going back at 6 weeks. So this gives you the opportunity to learn how to plan, you know, how to develop a plan to return to work, because it's not always the easiest thing to go back to work. And we'll give you little tips and tricks to make it a little bit easier.
Yeah. Now, let me ask you, we always get questions, or a lot of moms come into the shop, and when they do go back to work and they've been at work for a couple of weeks, their milk, they say that, oh my gosh, my milk supply is going down. And I feel like that could be helped or avoided with the proper techniques when pumping.
So definitely it can be improved. I don't know that it's going to be avoided 100%. But it can definitely be improved. Hands-on pumping, there's great videos by Stanford out there. Hands-on pumping can make a huge difference where you're actually massaging your breast. Think about when your baby goes to the breast. They're very handsy and they're trying to help you get that let down. The pump doesn't do that for you. And quite frankly, you don't love that pump near as much as you love your baby. So watch some videos of your baby. Listen to the sounds of your baby. If you have a couple videos, that makes a huge difference. Have something that smells like the baby. Take a blanket that baby's used the day before, take it along to work with you and actually smell the baby. All of our senses play into our letdown and being able to get as much milk out as we had been. But I still say with the pump, you're still not going to get as much out as you would have gotten if the baby was near you, because the baby by far is the best pump we have. Baby will get out more milk than any pump. And then pumps probably get 60 to 70% of normal milk supply out that baby would have gotten, but it's still a decent amount and still typically enough to get a mom back to work. In the event that you're having trouble, there's ways to increase your milk supply, and those are things we can talk about too if you want.
Yeah, that's a whole other. Yeah, I tell the moms that what were the as far as the breast pumps go, always use the lowest setting that's comfortable and working. Never, because some moms think, I'm going to crank this thing up. I'm one of them. I'm going to crank this up. I'm going to turn, and then
I think we've all done that.
But that actually is a disservice. That could have the opposite effect, right? Because it's very interesting how your breasts work, right? And how they're all these little, I call them grates. You have the more scientific term for them. But if you're having like all that force coming in, compressing them and preventing the milk from flowing, right? So it's really important. See, I've learned something along my.
You have. But I mean, just think about it too. Our natural response to pain, do we let off good hormones when we're having a lot of pain? Not really. So when we need those hormones to be flowing, that to get a good letdown. And if it's painful, which it's going to be if you turn that suction up, trust us, every new mom has tried this. If I turn the suction up, maybe I'll get more milk. No, it doesn't work like that. Turn it up till it's just a tad uncomfortable and then back it back down so that it's no longer uncomfortable. Just like feeding is not meant to be uncomfortable, pumping is also not meant to be uncomfortable.
Yeah.
An easy tip for new moms is take a little bit of lubricant and put them inside the flange. So if you have the hard flanges and they're not the soft, cushy kind that are silicone, take it inside that hard flange, just take some coconut oil or olive oil and go right around the ring. And it just gives you a little bit of lubrication. Just like your baby's mouth isn't dry, your flange shouldn't be dry. So just put a little bit of lubrication on there, and that just in general will make pumping a lot more, or a lot less uncomfortable, I should say.
Yeah. What about, so why is letdown so uncomfortable? It can be. It's very
but not for every mom. Some moms will tell me they don't even notice when their letdown occurs, and you can hear baby start swallowing. For other moms, when their mature milk supply comes in, they'll actually notice a letdown sensation. For some moms, it feels like a tingly, warm sensation. For other moms, they'll complain it almost feels like electrical impulses and it's uncomfortable. It doesn't last very long, but it's actually caused by the same hormone that causes our uterus to contract. So just like labor wasn't terribly comfortable, getting our letdown reflex for some women isn't terribly comfortable either. So it all depends on the person, but I wouldn't go into this thinking it's going to be a horrible experience. For most women, the letdown reflex is just a little bit of a tingly sensation. Anything more than that, you want to make sure nothing's wrong, because you can have vasospasms and things like that of the nipple when your nipples get cold that can cause other issues. So again, if it's something that's super painful when you're first getting the baby on, maybe we want to evaluate that and make sure everything's okay.
Why is the pump initially fast? This is great. I love this question, and I can't wait to hear how you're going to answer it. But why is the pump initially fast before slowing down?
So watch when your baby goes to the breast. When your baby goes to the breast, they tend to suck, 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 suck. And it's almost like little butterfly kisses, like little light fluttery sucks. And that's what your pump is mimicking. It's mimicking those light fluttery sucks that help to get the letdown. When the letdown happens, then baby changes to suck, suck, swallow, suck, suck, swallow. And it's much more intense. And the same thing is being mimicked here with the pump.
Yeah. And some pumps have that separated out where you can mimic you can adjust the settings to have a lighter, quicker sensation, or you can then you can reverse it. Some just have a button that you can just, and then it mimics the letdown. What do you like? Do you like the ones that just have the button for letdown?
I always had the one that had the button because I don't know, I was spoiled, I guess, but those were the ones I had, and I always like those a little bit better because I feel like, you know, you're working on trying to get a letdown here. You're trying to focus on, this is my baby noises, this is my baby smell. And now you're like, hold on, what do I need to do? I need to turn this setting down, turn this setting up. So it kind of is a little distracting. So if you like to be distracted during pumping, maybe that's not a bad thing. But I was never one that wanted to be distracted. I wanted to focus on what I was doing.
Interesting.
Maybe I'm a little too type A, I don't know.
Yeah, control the process. Yeah.
Yes, exactly.
this was great. I think we got a lot of good questions. We haven't done this in a while, and I would like to start doing these regularly. So I appreciate all the questions that we've gotten. And again, just to kind of recap, if you have any questions for Lora, you can email hello@thebreastfeedingshop.com, and we can reach out to you. We will send out an email about all of this as well. But please, thank you so much for supporting the Breastfeeding Shop. I really appreciate that. It means so much. And if we can help you in any way, shape, or form, and we would love to also help you with your lactation questions and share with your friends. I'm never too shy about asking for help. I think that we're all moms and we all like to help each other. So the more moms that Lora and I can help, really the happier we are. So it's just fulfilling. But thank you, Lora, for joining.
You're welcome.
And I will talk to you later. See you on the other side.
All right. Take care.